Okay, I am now recording. Alice Tenuto, I'm just letting one other person in. And I'm requesting that you take the hosting again. We're good?
Yeah, are you the host?
I just handed it back to you or requested you to accept it.
Oh,
You do have your screen sharing continued though.
let me see. Can you do that again? Because
Sure.
oh, somebody waiting.
No, I think it says you're the host right now.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get started. We want to welcome everybody here today. This is our first live Zoom roundtable. So we're just going to go with the flow here. Want to just welcome everyone who's here and who may not have been to any of our roundtables before, but the Winnakee Dutchess Trails Roundtable is a forum that we come together, we share information about trails in and around Dutchess County. So over the years, since about 2012, we've hosted 2 trail conferences and a number of these community roundtables. My name is Kathleen Davis, and I'm from Winnakee Land Trust. I want to just call out who's here today from our committee, our roundtable committee members. So from Winnakee, we have David Clip-on, and he's co-hosting with me. Warren Rosenthal and Bob Wills. From Dutchess County Transportation Council, we have Emily Dozier. And from Red Hook Trails, is Brenda Cagle and some of her associates. From Hudson River Valley Greenway, we have Dan Jensen and Beth Campochiaro. We also have Trails Planner, retired from the National Park Service, Karl Beard, and myself. We are the committee members of the roundtable. Up on the screen, you'll see the agenda. Of course, today, everybody, I'm sure, is aware that our feature presentation is from Andy Beers. So welcome, Andy. Thank you for taking the time to come to this meeting and to give us a overview on the Empire State Trails project. Yeah. What we'll do is, why don't you go ahead and take it away, and then Andy will go ahead.
No, he got out. He's okay.
I think somebody just needs somebody needs to mute. Kathleen, can you share the host to me, please, so I can share my screen?
Yes. Yeah. I will take the agenda down if I can. Should I go through the whole agenda, or is everybody good with that? We're going to try to stick to the timeline, so I'm sure everybody who is presenting has a copy of the timeline. So without further ado, Andy?
Okay. And Andy, if you need to mute, I'll go ahead and do that at in the participants.
Oh, yes, please mute everyone.
Looks like I have the waiting room, so let me just deal with that as well.
With the New York State Trails, Empire Trails.
Okay. Hi, this is Andy Beers. Can people see my presentation on the screen? Good. Okay. Thank you. So thank you for having me. I'm going to speak for roughly 20 minutes, give an overview of the Empire State Trail. We are going to have a discussion, question answer at the end. We're going to use the chat function for that. So if you have questions as I'm going along, you can just type them in the chat, and I believe Kathleen is going to moderate that. Okay, the Empire State Trail, just so you know, we have a detailed website. The address is there, but you can simply put Empire State Trail into your whatever search engine you use, and it should come up quite quickly. The website has detailed information about the trail, and I'll share some more information about that as well. I'm just gonna see if I can mute. I don't know how to do that.
David, is that at the bottom, the all mute, or how does
In
he?
the participants list at the very bottom, it'll have a mute all.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Why am I not seeing that?
Along the bottom?
Well, I'll just keep going. So the Empire State Trail was initiated in January of 2017 when Governor Cuomo announced it in his State of the State, and he proposed $200 million in his executive budget, which was subsequently approved by the state legislature in April of 2017. The trail is a 750-mile pedestrian and walking route that crosses the state of New York. You see the map. It has three main legs: Hudson Valley from New York City to Albany, the Erie Canalway Trail section from Buffalo to New York to Albany, and then the Champlain Valley up towards Canada. It is, you can, on the screen here, there are two colors on the trail. Everything that is green is an off-road trail, 10 feet wide, improved trail, rail trails, canalway trails, gentle grades. The sections that are in yellow are on-road connections where there is no current off-road opportunity, and so the trail route is designated on the shoulders of public roadways. And the on-road sections are really intended more for experienced bicyclists comfortable riding adjacent to traffic. From New York City to Albany to Buffalo, the primary off-road sections that's 550 miles, and currently 85% of that route is now off-road trail. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the trail benefits because this audience is well aware of them, but in particular, the first bullet here, safe and socially distanced outdoor recreation. Our trails, as you all know, have just experienced record use over the past year due to the pandemic. They provide places for people to get outside in small groups, whether by themselves or their family members, their friends, to exercise, to be in nature, to rejuvenate their spirits in a way that's safe and socially distanced. And the data, anecdotally, we all saw a very significant increase in trail use this year. The data is now coming in, and it's not unusual to see 50 to 100% increase in trail use on our trails across the state, including the Empire State Trail, over the last year as compared to pre-pandemic. The Empire State Trail is what we call a co-branding exercise. It connects and stitches together more than 20 regional trails, the Erie Canalway Trail, the Champlain Canalway Trail, the Dutchess Rail Trail, the Manhattan Greenway Trail, and so forth. Each of those trails maintains its own unique local character and name and logo and so forth, but it is also now co-branded through this series of Empire State Trail signs to create the continuous statewide route. These maps are a little hard to read, but the left-hand map is the southern half of the Hudson Valley, starting at New York City at the bottom and running up through New Paltz. And the map on the right is picking up at New Paltz and running up to the city of Albany. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this map, but I'll get into some of the trail sections in a minute here. So the Empire State Trail is first and foremost a construction initiative, again, where we created 58 projects across the state that were undertaken by 7 state agencies, and you can see them listed here, as well as 17 local governments, so counties, towns, villages, and cities, all of which developed new sections of off-road trail, eliminated gaps in the trails, and then for those sections where they are on-road, in many instances, not only obviously signage was put up, but in many instances, shoulders were improved or other steps were taken to make those on-road sections more safe and enjoyable for bicyclists and for pedestrians. The on-road improvements, here's just some examples of those. Those were primarily undertaken by the New York State Department of Transportation. Again, marking the route, but also widening shoulders and putting in other safety features to make the trail more amenable to trail users. On December 30th, Governor Cuomo announced that the 750-mile project is complete. And we're very, this is a ribbon cutting for one of our, for one of our projects in.
Hey, can you mute everybody, please?
Yeah, and I didn't figure out how to do that. If everyone was on, please mute. We're picking up a little feedback off your mic. We completed the 750-mile trail in December, and all projects. The trail is now open and available to the public. The $200 million state appropriation, which I mentioned earlier, which is, for context, was the largest single state appropriation for trail projects, not only in the history of New York, but in the history of the country, leveraged an additional $92 million in local, state, and federal investments in trail projects. In total, 180 miles of new trails have been constructed across the state. Again, rail trails and canalway trails and additional shared use paths. And then we installed Empire State Trail wayfinding signage on the 400 miles of the route that already existed prior to the Empire State Trail initiative. We also developed more than 45 gateways and trailheads along the 750 miles. These have common elements in terms of signage, interpretive panels, bike racks, and other features. They're meant to welcome people that are coming to the trail, to provide them some basic information, some support like bike fix-it stations and other kinds of things. And then to kind of, again, give this statewide character to the Empire State Trail in addition to the varying characteristics of the regional trails that comprise it. I'm going to just highlight several of the projects that have been completed, working kind of in central New York and working east across the state and down the Hudson Valley, just to give you a flavor for what's been accomplished. In Syracuse on the Erie Canalway Trail, one of the most vexing gaps was the 14-mile section. The existing Erie Canalway Trail ended in Camillus, and it didn't pick up until you got 14 miles through Syracuse to DeWitt, and you were sort of on your own to make your way through Syracuse. It was a fairly harrowing bicycle ride for those who have done it. A series of projects have done. This is one of the signature projects. Onondaga County constructed this brand new bike pedestrian bridge over at CSX's main east-west rail line. And there is now a continuous biking and walking route through Syracuse. In Amsterdam and Schenectady County, several projects have been completed, including New York State Parks. This picture obviously taken pre-pandemic. This was 2019, but completed construction of a new 5-mile trail along the Erie Canalway Trail from Amsterdam to Pattersonville, for example, that eliminated the need for bicyclists to travel on the shoulders of State Route 5S, which is a 55-mile-per-hour roadway. Also in Schenectady County, again, some of the projects, they eliminated small but challenging gaps. Here on the left is a picture where there was a break in the trail due to a CSX rail line again, and New York State DOT completed a very complex project to install a new bike pedestrian tunnel under the active rail line. You can see the rail cars on top, chemical storage cars, so you can imagine the complexity of that. This project was taken late fall, but the trail is now done and open to the public as well. On the Champlain Canalway Trail, which is 60 miles, starts in Waterford at the confluence of the Mohawk and Hudson Rivers and runs north along the Lake Champlain Canal for 60 miles to Whitehall. The New York State Canal Corporation has constructed a series of new off-road trails as well. And you can see from these pictures, this was still construction largely complete, now entirely done. These really beautiful new trail sections along the canal, a great recreational resource for Washington and Saratoga counties. In the Capital District, a local project, in this case undertaken by the city of Watervliet, the city constructed a new 1.5 mile separated path on the shoulders of Broadway through the city. And this project, I think, is emblematic of a number of projects happening in municipalities, both construction of the Empire State Trail, but many of our municipalities, or our cities in particular across the state, building new bike lanes and new connections so that people can get to the Empire State Trail by, from where they live, by riding on safe routes through cities, villages, and towns, as opposed to needing to put their bike on their car or drive to the trailhead in order to visit the Empire State Trail and other trails. In Columbia and Rensselaer counties, now in the Hudson Valley, my organization, Hudson River Valley Greenway, constructed a new 36-mile rail trail completed in late December. runs from the city of Rensselaer to the city of Hudson, the first major rail trail opportunity, particularly in Rensselaer County. The Empires, here's another picture of the trail after one of our recent snowstorms. Like most of the Empire State Trail is not plowed in the winter. It's just available for use in whatever winter conditions we have, which sometimes means cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. More often than not is walking or even bicycling. But these resources again are whatever the weather conditions are. That's the outdoor recreation that's available on our trails during winter months. In the city of Kingston, the city completed 2 new trails in the last 2 years. They bring 2 rail trails literally into and through the city itself. Major new connection through the city for longer distance visitors, as well as asset for local residents. And in particular, on the right is a brand new project called the Hudson River Brickyard Trail, which opened at the end of the year on the Hudson River and a property that's going to be called Hudson Cliffs State Park. A new park, Scenic Hudson, is in the process of transmitting to state parks ownership in 2021. South of Kingston through to New Paltz, the existing Wallkill Valley Rail Trail, our nonprofit partners, the Open Space Institute and the Wallkill Valley Land Trust, completed a project this fall to resurface 9 miles, put a new stone dust surface, and make other safety improvements on that trail. From New Paltz to the walkway over the Hudson, New York State DOT, Ulster County, and the town of Lloyd all completed projects that now create a continuous off-road trail from the thruway running east to the walkway and Poughkeepsie and continuing into Dutchess County. Skipping over, I'll come back to Dutchess at the end. In Newcastle in Westchester County, DOT constructed new sections of trail by repurposing the existing State Route 100, shifting travel lanes and using their right-of-way to create a guide rail protected side path for 2 miles along Route 100 that eliminated that gap in the trail system in Westchester County. And the last project I'm going to highlight in Dutchess and Putnam counties starts at Hopewell Junction. Hopewell Junction running west and north from the trail west and north from Hopewell Junction, of course, is the existing William Steinhaus Dutchess Rail Trail that leads to the walkway and into Ulster County. There now is a newly completed 23-mile trail that runs from Hopewell Junction south and east through to Brewster in Putnam County. It's a fantastic new trail. When you get a chance to get out there this year, it has a unique feel and character to it. This is next to the Great Swamp in Putnam County. Because it was a double line track, and one track, although trains no longer run on it, the one track was left in place. And so you really get this experience that, yes, you are truly riding on an old rail tail corridor. Again, here's another picture adjacent where the trail runs adjacent to a feature called Ice Pond. And then another fun thing we were able to do on both the Maybrook Trailway and the Albany-Hudson Electric Trail is we developed a whole series of installed interpretive panels that tell the history of the rail line and the communities that helped shape. The Maybrook Trailway was built by Metro North Railroad. You're all familiar, they're part of MTA. First major rail trail or shared use paths project they did, and they did just a fantastic job of embracing this additional form of transportation. And Dutchess and Putnam counties, our county partners, have agreed that they'll conduct the kind of month in and month out maintenance on the Maybrook Trail. We did we'll see what the numbers end up being, but before the pandemic, we projected the Empire State Trail would attract 8.6 million visitors annually across the state. I have a feeling it's going to be more than that in 2021, is due to the tremendous outgrowth and interest in outdoor recreation. Switching to branding and marketing, a couple things. Our program, as I said, we have installed our Empire State Trail wayfinding signage along the 750-mile route. We've created a sophisticated website to promote and provide information about the trail, and I'll show a couple screenshots in a second of the website. And then we are also promoting connecting trails, nearby amenities, tourism destinations, adjacent businesses, both so that trail users and visitors from outside the area can access those services, and to maximize the benefit of the trail for local businesses and main streets and downtowns and villages, cities, as an economic development asset. There's a couple screenshots of our website, which again, if you just Google Empire State Trail, you will find it. It includes detailed descriptions of each section. I know you can't read this, it's just illustrative, but the website breaks the 750 miles up into sections of roughly 10 miles each and provides a great description about that. And you can download cue sheets and maps, and shows elevation changes and other things for trail users. This is just a picture of the Kingston Point Rail Trail in the city of Hudson, which, again, you can see as you start to zoom in on our interactive map, you get information about nearby parking areas, and you can keep zooming in to see the precise location of the trail if you're interested in visiting it. There's a section of the website that also talks about the many activities you can do on the trail, lists all the campsites. For example, the camping section has a map and a narrative description of all the camp sites, public and private, within 5 miles of the trail for people seeking that kind of information. Last thing I'll say about the website is the Empire State Trail is meant to be the spine, but we're seeking to promote connecting trails near the Empire State Trail, trail networks that people can access. This is from the website, the map in the area between Kingston at the north and New Paltz at the south. And so you can see those blue lines, and if you click on them on the website, the name of the individual section comes up. The Ashokan Rail Trail, the O&W Rail Trail, the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail south, the New Paltz, the River to Ridge Trail. So we're also very much both in our on-the-ground interpretive signs and in the website looking to promote those connecting trails as well. I'm wrapping up my presentation in terms of what's next for this coming year, 2021. We are going to be closing out our roster of construction. Many of our most complex and lengthy projects were completed in the fall, some all the way into November and December. We were sprinting to the finish line. And so as you can imagine, there is a fair amount of work just in terms of completing, the trails are open and accessible, but just closing out punch list items, documentation, and getting them fully ready for public use next spring, this spring, which is right around the corner now. We are going to be, we are working with New York State Parks, I Love New York, and other partners to promote the trail and market the trail. The governor announced in his State of the State this past January something called the Empire State Challenge, which will be a series of events and activities to promote the trail across the state. In 2021, given the pandemic, we're not out there heavily marketing the trail as a national or international tourism destination, obviously. So some of these promotions will be virtual, but they will really be aimed first and foremost at people, New York residents, this spring and summer to get out on the trail, and then hopefully at some point, whether it's this fall or in 2022, we'll pivot to more traditional marketing and tourism promotion activities for the trail. Another initiative underway is to identify projects and funds to resurface some of the existing Empire State Trail that are in poor condition, outdated condition. As I mentioned, when the Empire State Trail was launched, there were 400 miles of existing trail that were incorporated into the statewide route. Much of that is in very good condition, but there are some sections that are aged, showing their age. And so, in the way of example, Westchester County last year resurfaced the North County Trail in the county, and they have awarded a contract for construction work this year. These are county funds, which they put up to resurface the remaining South County Trail. So all of Westchester County will have a brand new surface by this fall. And we're also looking, sections of the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail were resurfaced last year in Ulster County, and we're looking at the possibility of completing that work in a village and town of New Paltz, potentially in the next year or two. Last thing I would say is, those of you who are involved in whether municipal work or nonprofit work that are familiar with the consolidated funding application process, the many state grant programs that are administered by New York State Parks, Department of State, Canal Corporation, ESD that support trail projects. There was not a state grant round, CFA grant round in 2020 due to the pandemic. There's not been an official announcement, but the buzz that's out there is there will be a CFA round this year. So, look for announcement on that. Those typically, that grant cycle is typically initiated late spring with applications due in the summer. So I'm not 100% sure that that's going to happen, but that seems to be where the situation is headed, which will be great to get that program back this year. And again, although it's not been officially announced, the New York State Department of Transportation is laying the groundwork for a TAP, Transportation Access Program, TAP grant program grant round in 2021 as well. And those are federal funds that come to the state for multimodal transportation and rail trail, Canalway trail, municipal connections, city bike lanes, all those kinds of bike and ped projects tend to be very competitive in the TAP funding round as well. So that's really, that's my presentation. I imagine spring 2021. You can get out there on the trail wherever you live in the Hudson Valley and pedal south all the way on a continuous trail, or you can hike or run. I've been contacted by several people who intend to do a run from New York City to Albany as charitable fundraising efforts this year, for example, this spring. So you can head south all the way through Manhattan to the tip of Manhattan at the Battery, passing by the iconic World Trade Center site and Freedom Tower, or you can ride north to Canada or to Buffalo on the Empire State Trail. All right, I'm going to stop there, and let's see. I'm going to try sharing the screen back to Kathleen. See if I can figure out how to do that. And let's see, how do I do that?
In your participant list, I think you can mouse over Kathleen.
Yeah, Kathleen, where are you, Kathleen? Bear with me. So if people that have questions, if you want to load them to the, I'm seeing everybody, but I'm not seeing Kathleen. Where is she?
Might be at the very top.
All right, bear with me for a sec. I see David. I don't see Kathleen.
Oh, you could turn it over to David. And
Yeah, and I'll hand it to Kathleen from here.
All right, I'll do that. Bear with me.
So I'm actually going to, we'll look at some of the questions. Karl, did you want to help me with this part of it?
Yeah. Kathleen, your host now.
Oh, okay.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Let's look at some of these questions. Okay. Well, here's one from David. Andy, was the project on time and budget? And were there planning or construction challenges caused by the pandemic? An incredible job.
Yeah. We did complete the project on schedule and on budget, and which was frankly in the spring of this year, we were very concerned, as you can imagine. What basically happened is New York State did identify a series of activities as essential work, essential construction, including public works projects, state public works projects, including transportation and trail projects. So there were some hiccups and some supply issues, but our contractors were able to work across the state throughout the summer and fall. And thankfully, there was not a single incident of needing to have a work close down related to the COVID on any of our projects statewide. Yeah, I think that in part reflects careful, our contractors and our state agency partners following COVID protocols, but also just that the nature of this work, it's outdoor work, construction, relatively small groups of people working on different pieces of equipment, made it possible for the work to continue.
Amazing. Karl, you want to take the next one?
Sure. Yeah. Andy, question from Kevin Smith. Now that the core of the Empire State Trail is built and open, and hats off to you about that, will there be funding for educational and public service campaigns to educate the public about how to navigate key sections. And I think with a special note toward on-road facilities where people may be less familiar with how trails work.
I'll let you do the,
Yeah, there, you know,
there's a
there.
leave here. I don't know whether, I've never done this before, so
Yeah.
you can just sign me out.
All right.
Leave on there. I'll let you from there.
Whoever's
Leave
speaking,
in the right,
please
lower
mute.
right corner.
Kathleen, at the bottom of the participants, you
Got
might
it.
have a mute
Yeah.
button.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry.
We don't have funding per se, but we've done a couple things. We have created things like a fact sheet that are bicycle safety tips, bicycle and walking safety tips for people that we're distributing out to municipal and government partners. For example, it's a one pager that can be printed as an 8.5 by 11. It's PDF, and we're working with other partners, Parks and Trails New York, New York Bicycle Coalition, and others that really specialize in bicycle safety and bringing people into the bicycling world and teaching them safe bicycling habits. So we're kind of relying on partners that have that expertise.
Okay, thank you. Here's one from Ron Rosen from the Appalachian Trail. Comment, there needs to be more parking for the Empire State Trail near Pauling. Empire State Trail users are crowding the nearby parking at the entrances to the Nuclear Lake portion of the AT, and there is probably room for such parking near the crossing of Route 292.
Yep. So a couple thoughts. I mean, it's not unique to the new Maybrook Trailway that we have a challenge where sometimes the demand is overwhelming available parking, which I guess is a good problem to have, but one that we are very committed to working on with our local partners. The Maybrook was a little challenging in terms of parking because it was a major freight rail line and grade separated at most crossings. There were, and of course on the rail corridor itself, there's no room usually to build parking, and so Metro North identified there are 4 designated parking areas along. I know that there were some other ideas that were surfaced during the planning process that there was not time or budget to pursue those. Putnam and Dutchess County are involved as well. I know that, for example, Putnam County is looking to create a new initiative to create some new access points to the trail where the trail is either, it's grade separated, it's either on a bridge, the railroad line was over the road or the road is over the railroad line, right? And so they're looking to create some access ramps. So I'm not specifically familiar with that particular location, but as both concerns about parking issues come up and opportunities and ideas for where to create more parking, as I receive those, I pass them on to Metro North and to our county partners in Putnam and Dutchess counties for them to pursue. Theoretically, there's a little bit of funding that could be left, but usually when it comes to parking, it's not the cost of the parking that's the big challenge. It's getting a piece of property that that is getting agreements to use property that's available and doing the design and the permitting and so forth to construct the parking.
Okay, great. All right, thanks for that explanation. We've got one from Rob Wills. Any plan for a tour similar to the Canalway tour or self-guided tour of the entire system in 60-mile segments as a suggestion?
Yeah, so many of you may be familiar. The Parks and Trails New York runs something called the Cycle the Erie ride, which is Buffalo to Albany in 8 days, 600 to 700 people. They were not able to run it in 2020 due to the pandemic, and they haven't formally announced whether they're able to do it this July. I guess we're waiting to hear their decision on that. But certainly, we hope by 2022 it will be back. I think there are no immediate plans that anyone's picked up the baton, but I know that Parks and Trails New York used to organize a Hudson Valley ride as well. They discontinued that because there wasn't enough growing demand. And I think, again, their analysis was there wasn't enough on-road or off-road trail in the Hudson Valley. There was too much on-road riding to attract a wide spectrum of participants. That's now changed, right? In the Hudson Valley, we have one significant on-road section, which is from the city of Hudson down to the city of Kingston in the middle part of the Hudson Valley. It's about 35 miles, and there is no off-road trail opportunity at this time. That section now is it's primarily designated though on county and count roads that have low volume and are they're certainly comfortable riding for experienced bicyclists. But the rest of the trail now, literally from Kingston all the way to the Battery at the tip of Manhattan, that's 125 miles of trail. All but 5 miles of that is now off-road trail. And that 5 miles is just 3 short sections, one in Ulster County, one in going through Brewster, and a section. There is a challenging section to get from Van Cortlandt Park to the west side of Manhattan. But I fully expect that we're going to see, I certainly hope that we'll see, whether it's Parks and Trails New York or another organization stepping in to start organizing those large group rides. And we're already starting to see some commercial firms, small businesses that organize supported rides, offering and advertising for the fall of 21, for example, supported rides both in the Champlain section and in the Hudson Valley section that didn't previously exist.
Thank
Very
you.
exciting. Karl?
Yeah, and I don't know, I have to ask the Ulster County people if they'd be content with a trip that started in New York City and ended in Ulster County. I don't know. That's all almost all off-road. Next question is Richard asks, what's the status of the Harlem Valley Trail north of Millerton? And I will just say, stay tuned. That's one of our next presentations, Richard. So good question, timely. On to the next one. Are there any requirements or incentives for new or existing trailway parking lots to feature electronic vehicle charging stations? Requirements or incentives?
Yeah, there generally are not. Most of the parking lots don't have utility service directly at them. Right. They're paid parking lots, signage, bicycle racks, fix-it station, benches, interpretive signage, but they typically, it would be a significant undertaking to actually install vehicle charging stations. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but it is something that would take a fair amount of effort, and perhaps we'll start to see that. I mean, many of our trailheads along the trail, they are in places where the trail passes through larger municipal or state parks. And in those locations, I think those would be the most feasible for charging stations to be installed, because you do need a critical mass of users in addition to trail users, but the larger park visitation, I think, would drive that. A related question that has come up regularly is, what about e-bikes? What's going on with e-bikes, right? And you may know that last April, so about a year ago now, New York State did enact comprehensive electric bike legislation. Prior to last April, you could buy e-bikes in any bicycle store, many bicycle stores across the state, but it wasn't actually legal to ride them anywhere. So what the state legislation now says is that e-bikes, class 1 and class 2 e-bikes are now allowed on public roads that are posted 30 miles per hour or less, and they are allowed on trails, but only if affirmatively allowed by the entity that owns a particular section of trail. Our state partners, New York State Parks, New York State Canal Corporation, and others have been adopting policies this past summer and fall, allowing class 1 and class 2 e-bikes on their trails. And so the general rule on the Empire State Trail is in most sections, e-bikes are allowed. Really the only place I've seen so far where they are explicitly prohibited is on the bike path on the west side of Manhattan, the Manhattan Greenway Trail from the Battery up to Inwood Hill. The New York City has prohibited e-bikes on that section. That is the only section of the Empire State Trail that actually, where overuse and is an issue. There can be so many people out there, it can be challenging to navigate the trail. The rest of the state, the trail can certainly welcome and accommodate significantly greater use. So the bicycle community has been very supportive of e-bikes, and I expect generally speaking, they are now allowed on our trails, class 1 and class 2, that is.
Okay, good question, because people ask me about those all the time. Are they allowed on certain sections that they're walking on here in Dutchess County? And I really don't know. So I guess eventually there'll be signage, or maybe I haven't seen it.
Again, I think what you're going to see is the default situation is e-bikes are basically now allowed on trails unless they're prohibited. really. And if they're prohibited, you can expect to see the entity that maintains and operates that section of the trail will likely be doing signage on it. For example, I know the Wallkill Valley Land Trust that operates portions of the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail. Their current policy, or at least their policy last summer, was they didn't welcome e-bikes either. So there will be a few trails where they're not allowed, but generally speaking, on rail trails they're moving towards a positive direction. Go ahead. If someone's gonna say
I can
something.
speak to the Wallkill Valley Land Trust. I work for them. I am the coordinator, land stewardship coordinator. Our policy is currently aligned with Mohonk, and it's class 1 only e-bikes are allowed.
Class 1 only. For those who are not familiar, the distinction is class 1 is what's called a pedal assist e-bike, which means the electric motor only engages if you're pedaling. If you're not pedaling, you're not getting any electric boost. A class 2 bike, you can pedal or you can simply operate with a throttle, and it will move you along. So it makes sense that some organizations have said, well, pedal assist, you're still bicycling, but it's a way to allow people, particularly people who have mobility challenges or people that, as our society ages, to get out there and continue to enjoy these trails. Whereas on a class 2 bike, technically, you can just operate it like an electric scooter, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Well, good questions. Thank you, everyone. And we're going to paddle along here. Andy, thanks again so much for coming and giving us this great presentation. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Terrific. I'm going to mute my phone, but I'll stay and listen in.
Okay. Awesome. Karl?
One note. There are a couple of other questions that came in. Our apologies. We're trying to stay on schedule, but if we'll forward these questions and try to get back to you in a follow-up email afterwards. I see Kevin has given a thumbs up on that. All good questions.
Yeah. Okay, Karl, you're next. It looks like on the regional trail updates. Karl's just going to give us a brief summary of the Ulster County 2020 State of the Trails report.
If you can hand me the
Right. Okay. Okay.
says I am now host. Thank you very much. Whoops. I hope I can share my screen with you. Can people see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Following on what Andy said about regional trail connections, this is just an update from Ulster County. Ulster County has seen an enormous surge in trails in the last several years, and over the last year, the Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee, with assistance from my previous employer, the National Park Service Rivers and Trails Program, created a State of the Trails report just because so much was going on, and the Empire State Trail was happening. So this is just an update. This report is completed, and we'll make it available, as I'll say at the end, soon, I hope, online. This is what the cover of the report looks like. That's the opening day on the Ashokan Rail Trail, which opened in October of 19. Why are we doing this again? We grew by more than 20 miles in 2 years, and the county is literally becoming transformed because of that. Again, the Ashokan Rail Trail opened access to the Ashokan Reservoir to the public for the first time in 100 years. With the town, as Andy said, that section of the Hudson Valley Rail Trail, sorry for the misspelling there, from New Paltz to the walkway over the Hudson, transformative, direct access from New Paltz to Dutchess County. River to Ridge Trail, equally transformative, linking the New Paltz right in downtown, right to the carriage road system of Mohonk Preserve. And then the county's first urban rail trail, the Kingston Point Rail Trail, linking from the Midtown section near the hospital down to the Rondout and Hudson rivers. And then, of course, Andy's game, the Empire State Trail. You know, what's the backstory? Ulster County is rich with abandoned railroads, and this is what that system looks like. The green stuff, and actually some of the yellow over in this area is all completed rail trail. Shokan Rail Trail here, O&W Rail Trail, Wallkill Valley Rail Trail, and then the new Hudson Valley Rail Trail section here. The red stuff is what needs to be done, and some connections. So this is the infrastructure that that is our opportunity. You may know, Dutchess County is famous, and the bridge we share, walkway over the Hudson. Ulster County's got a little bit of its own too. We invite you to visit. These things really are transformative. Another thing we observed was our rail trails had something like 600,000 visitors in 2019, pieced together from the various trail counts that we have, and so that's a lot of usage for a rural county like ours. And based on that usage and a little bit of ground truthing, we figured out that the county has derived more than $10 million from spending by rail trail users in 1 year alone. That's a conservative number, and what we're doing is calibrating that to nationally recognized trail spending studies. As we've observed, and it's these are the benefits we all talk about. Trails boost the local economies, really good for local businesses, ordinary things, trails, restaurants, snack shops. And we're starting to pay more attention to things like Pennsylvania's Trail Towns model, something we need to learn about. Also, we found trails make for good construction jobs, at least in the construction phase. More jobs per $1 million are created by trail construction projects than they are for road construction projects. All good stuff. Yeah. And especially, in the last year, we've been looking at the health benefits. There's an important study from Nebraska that said that, $1 investment in trails for physical activity yields almost $3 in direct medical benefits. Just by, all the things that every major health organization recommends we do. Just walk around more, bicycle if you can, things like that. More physical activity. Trails near homes make it 49% more likely that people who live nearby will meet the recommended levels of physical activity. That is the 30 minutes, five times a week. And we're seeing it in real time, regular visitors to the rail trails. And the Ulster County Community Health Improvement Plan signified, tagged trails as an opportunity to reduce the biggest health problems in our county, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, things like that. And this group off here on the side, this is a group that Kara Gentry identified in her work. This is a group that of young mothers who call themselves Strong as a Mother, who get out and walk their kids around on the trail on a regular basis. Great stuff, great stuff. And then, of course, COVID, enormous boost in increase in trail use, which with COVID, nationally, we've seen spectacular numbers, locally at least 60 to 100%. Some areas were, like Mohawk Preserve, were temporarily closed because of the increase in use. New Jersey closed its state parks, and all those people came here for a while. And we just, people will tell us directly, we need to come out on the trails. It's good for our, we have to get out of the house. We have to do something. And our rail trails are accessible, close to home, and they're relatively safe. People can socially distance on wide trails. So Ulster County right now has 75 miles of shared use trails. There's a potential of a little bit more than 120. That's the red stuff on the map. And that's the stuff that we need to start focusing on next here in Ulster. So our little document says here are the next things we need to do in the next few years. Complete that trail network, close those red lines. There are 4 to 5 gaps that are of critical importance that would connect new communities. Do more to connect the communities, make the trails more visible in communities, things, gateways, signage, on-road linkages, things like that. And because we got more trails now, we need to think about coordinating the management and stewardship countywide. We need to have better counts just because you can't manage what you can't count. We have to know more about our trail users. And we have to do more to try and build on those health and economic benefits. And again, looking to that Trail Towns model. So that's where we're at. This document we're working with Ulster County to see when and how we can get it posted on the county website, but more to follow. And I'm going to hand back the
Hey, Karl, can you hear me?
yes.
I'm just going to say, Kevin Smith, Ulster County Trails Advisory. I worked with Karl on this project along with members of our committee. I did put in the chat window a link to the Google Drive version of the doc. It's a PDF.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, it's. I noticed one of our partner groups has posted it on their website, but we haven't done that yet. So yeah, if you want to see the whole thing, look at Kevin's link there. Now, I need to hand back. How can I hand back to who's next?
You want to hand it over to Emily and Dick? They're going to give us the next update on the Harlem Valley Rail Trail. I think Emily's going to start out with just a quick video, and then she'll hand it over to Dick Hermans from the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Group.
I'm not seeing my participant list.
Okay.
Usually, if you mouse over, you don't see it at the bottom of the screen.
Participants, the bottom.
Got it. All I get is invite.
You mouse over.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay.
You can type in the name, Emily.
Okay. Okay, Emily, you're now host.
Okay, thank you. So let's see if I can share my screen. Let's see. All right, can people, let's see. Can people see this map that I'm showing?
Yes.
That looks good.
Okay. So I just wanted to let everyone know that there was a question about the Harlem Valley Rail Trail, and I work for Dutchess County for the Transportation Council. And so the County Department of Public Works did complete this project. It's an 8-mile extension from the village of Millerton north through the town of Northeast to Columbia County. And it creates a 23-mile continuous section all the way from Wassaic, which is further south in Dutchess, up to Copake Falls in the Taconic State Park area. So this map just shows us a section of that. If you go to the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association website, they have the full maps. But I just wanted to make that, show that. And then also I have a short video that the county produced, which actually, I know I'm supposed to, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this because I don't know if I turned on the sound, but I'll turn up my volume and see if that helps.
Barely hear it.
We've been through a lot these last.
There we go.
Months, and people have come to enjoy nature and outdoors in ways that perhaps we took for granted in the past. But this brilliant 23-mile rail trail now extending into Columbia County weaves its way from village center to farmland and open space. And it's just a true reminder of the remarkable place we call home.
Great. I barely had time to open up my popcorn.
Welcome.
Sorry,
Thank you.
just a second here.
That's great.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So I think I'm going to try and switch it over to Dick now with the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association. Let's see. All right, Dick, that should work for you.
Right. Thank you, Emily. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you see my map?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me give you a little history of the Harlem Valley Rail Trail. The railroad was abandoned north of Dover Plains in about 1980. And at that point, the idea of converting that abandoned railroad into a trail evolved. A couple of years later, Metro North built a new station at Wassaic, and that's the southern terminus of the trail. Although this past fall, the town of Amenia completed a little half-mile trail from the train station into the hamlet of Wassaic, which I encourage you all to visit because it has an amazing arts group going there and a wonderful pizza place called The Lantern that you'll fall in love with. The section from Wassaic to Amenia was completed in the aughts of this century. Amenia to Coleman Station was completed in the year 1996, and then it came up to Millerton in 2000. And everyone was very excited, and the anticipation was that we were going to get this next section up to Boston Corners completed just any day now, but it's taken 20 years, but it's finally finished. The problem being that much of this section is through various classifications of wetlands, and the permitting process with DEC took about 14 years. And it is once the permitting was in there, the work got done amazingly well last year. COVID didn't seem to disrupt it at all, and it opened in December officially. And it has been wildly popular right away. I mean, people were, when you wait for something for 20 years, once it's there, people are pretty happy about it. And I will just encourage you to get out on this section of trail because it goes up between Route 22, but it's the wet. You're right in the wetlands. I mean, there's so much water here and habitat that it's just really incredible. And you are right next to the Southern Berkshires and Taconic Mountains. And every time of the year, it's going to be just amazing. If you've ever driven up Route 22 north of Millerton into Columbia County, you'll remember just how magnificent the mountains are there. It's quite stunning. In terms of other sections of the trail, at Under Mountain Road, which is at Boston Corners, and Boston Corners is just unique because in the late 19th century, it was a hub for railroads, both east, west, and north and south. It was a big terminal area. Going north from there, a section was built by the state in Columbia County. Should point out that in Dutchess County, the state owns the land, but leases it to the county for the purpose of being a linear park. And there's a little section there you'll see just right by the word Boston. That little section is in Columbia County, but the trail was built there by Dutchess County. And it was like the first time that Columbia County actually put some money into trail building. And we're hoping we can get them to do that again, though that's maybe a stretch. North to Copake Falls, where the Taconic State Park is, their headquarters are their Copake Falls operation. Very near and dear to my heart. My father was the park superintendent there during World War II. And that little bit of trail ends at Orphan Farm Meadow, which was a piece of property that was actually called Orphan Farm by the farms group that owned it. And at that point, there was a break in the trail. And I'll get back to in a minute. And then a little bit up here is a little section from the hamlet of Hillsdale down to a place called Black Grocery Road, another kind of historic little spot. And our organization actually built that section of trail and finished it in 2017. And it's the only part of the trail that we have actually built, that we've helped things along. The section, the out piece here, that starts at Orphan Farm Meadow and goes north, it crosses Route 22. There was a railroad bridge there that was taken down in the 1990s. And we have gotten the plan done for that. We contracted to do the design work for that section of trail, and that's complete. The permitting is virtually complete. The seeker process was completed last week. We have we wrote a grant for the state, and a grant of $1.9 million was secured. Our organization has raised about $450,000 for the local match with that grant. And we are hopeful that this will go out to bid this year, and construction could even start this year, though I'm hesitant to say anything's going to happen that quickly, but you never know. Over the years, our group has spent over $300,000 purchasing rail bed. All the rail bed in Columbia County, we purchased and donated to the state. And, that's really kind of what we're trying to get going in Columbia County, to get a little more, to get some local action there. There's Columbia County does not have a parks department. It does not have a county park. And so talking parks to Columbia County has been a trifle difficult, but we're hoping that when this little section of trail here with the bridge across 22 gets done, that there'll be an enthusiasm to extend us to on up to Chatham, where the railroad eventually went to. The most likely next section is from Hillsdale to Craryville and out to the Taconic Hills School, Central School. People are excited about that. There is one out parcel here that is a farm that the farmer did not want to sell that piece of property, so it is still in private ownership. However, there is a solar farm now proposed for that land, and we have been assured by the solar developer that the trail would go through there when they get their permit to build their solar farm. There's also an amazing stretch through here that is owned by the Audubon Society, and that is going to be, again, a little bit of a challenge to build through the wetland, but I suspect that we will. Looking north, the Chatham to Philmont section is all owned by the state, and it is, well, we say it's a shovel-ready project, but it would need some more tweaking, but it's all been surveyed. It's all seems like a legitimate. All we need is several $1 million to build a trail. And so who knows how soon that can happen. The investment that the state's been making in trails been impressive. We need more impression on the Harlem Valley Rail Trail. In the village of Philmont, there'll be a little bit of a problem just because all the railroad went right through neighborhoods, and all the properties associated with the houses were sold back to the houses, the residents there. So there's no clear route through Philmont, but we have a couple of different schemes to get through there on the streets of the village. Going this little section here, the purple section here is the trickiest and will probably be the last part done. Right here, it crosses the Taconic State Parkway. And if you really looking carefully going north from north of Route 23 on the Parkway, you can see where the railroad went under the Parkway. And I always thought that there must have been a tunnel, but we've gotten some pictures that show there was a bridge there, and they just filled in under the bridge. So it doesn't look like there's a bridge there anymore. So there's a little work to be done to get under the parkway. Similarly, under Route 23, there's a crossing here that was a tunnel under Route 23 when the railroad ran. So that is the story of the trail. One of the things that our organization is doing is down in Millerton on this new, wonderful new section right about here. It's right in the village of Millerton. There's a double wide bridge. Half of it is the trail. Half of it's going to be, we call it a Bridge to Nature, an outdoor education center. It's going to be a group of about 8 displays that talk about water ecology, natural history, regional history. We are developing that, the language of that right now. It's being reviewed by the state, and we'll go back and forth in terms of designing the signs, and hopefully we'll have something that really is an attraction and an enhancement to people's enjoyment of the trail. There may be other things, but well, actually there is if you're up on there, they have a couple, since it's water on both sides of the trail, there've been bridges built that are concrete slabs on steel piers. And there's one of these that's 1,300 feet long up here. And it is just amazingly beautiful, just in terms of, you're going to, it's going to be a great migratory bird area, has been a great migratory bird area that people will now have access to. Bird watchers are so excited about getting up on this part of the trail that it's hard to hold them back. They can't wait just for spring, and we'll be there in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Any questions? I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Dick. This is amazing. There's so much to take in. I can't wait to get up there and explore each section. We are going to move along. I think we'll do the questions at the end, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just because we're running a little behind, and we do want to make sure we hear from everybody that we had at least initially planned on hearing from. So at this point, we're going to turn, if you could turn the hosting capability back to Emily, Dick.
Yep, done.
Emily's going to give us an update on the CSX Corridor Urban Trail.
Actually, Dick, if you can find Zoraida's name, she has the PowerPoint or the slides for this part.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're the host
you're the
now.
host.
You're the host now.
I am?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Emily, do you have it? Do you want to, I don't know if you can make me.
You're the host. If you go to share screen, Zoraida.
It says mine's is disabled. Host disabled.
Make Zoraida the host, but I don't see that option.
Under participants.
Right. I only see Dick's name, so maybe I'll just, do you mind, Zoraida, if I share this slide?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Oh, Emily, you may have searched for Dick's name. If you clear that search, you might get the full list.
Oh, that's probably what I did.
And then you can mouse over Zoraida's name and hand it to her. But this works too.
Okay. All right, so Zoraida and I are going to share this, but I thought I would just start out. You may have heard of the CSX rail trail. This is the old CSX rail corridor in the town of Poughkeepsie. If you're not familiar, this is the old psychiatric center to the north. It's now called Hudson Heritage. It's a big mixed-use development under construction. So basically this rail line, which you can see outlined kind of in red here, it's an upside down Y. It's kind of a forked shape. It connects that Hudson Heritage site to Marist College, to the Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital, to the north side of Poughkeepsie, to the Dutchess Rail Trail and the Walkway, and many other destinations in the city of Poughkeepsie. So this is a project that Scenic Hudson partnered with the county to acquire this right-of-way from CSX. And Dutchess County Public Works is currently managing the project with a consultant team from HBEA engineers out of Beacon. They're the design consultant, and an advisory committee is also working with the county to kind of work through some design questions and issues for the project. So I would just give a general update from the project manager, Matt Dukovich. Basically, they're working on some preliminary engineering and preliminary design concepts right now, working with the advisory committee. And they are then going to be doing some outreach to the public. So please stay tuned for that. The big picture schedule is to hope to begin construction next year in 2022. And they're most likely going to do that in a phased approach. So they would have one leg of this upside down Y constructed in 22 and the other leg constructed in 2023. That decision hasn't been made yet, but that's what they're thinking. So I think I'll turn it over to Zoraida now, and I can advance the slides for you if you want to talk more about local connections.
Great, thanks, Emily. So if you just want to go to the next slide, we're particularly interested at Scenic Hudson in how the rail trail can connect to local community members in the city of Poughkeepsie. As the first presenter mentioned, thinking about how trails can be used by community members. This is a great opportunity for City of Poughkeepsie residents to have alternative ways to get to and from work, to and from bus routes, and also ways for community members to even get to and from schools. When we look at the route of the CSX proposed rail trail, we see that it's nearby some important parks in the city of Poughkeepsie. So there's Malcolm X Park, Beulah Baptist Church. It's the largest church in the city of Poughkeepsie. It has a membership of about 500 parishioners. Manson Square Park is right around the corner, and it's also a pretty well-known popular park in the city of Poughkeepsie. Looking further kind of down the trail, MPI is a major employer in the city of Poughkeepsie. And as we look further to the end, we see how the trail connects to the Wallkill Creek. So, it's a really, really exciting project. I think, there's a lot of potential here for the trail to really be one that can connect to the walkway and it can bring people in the city of Poughkeepsie, but also kind of really be used by local residents too.
Is that yellow line, does that indicate where a trail section is going to be going, which is off of this regular CSX rail trail? Or is the yellow the CSX rail trail?
Yeah, so this yellow line is the rail line, and then there's an off-road section. So right here at Hamilton Street, we don't have the right-of-way for the rest of the rail line, and so we divert to an on-road section, Hamilton, Mansion, Smith, and over.
Okay. Wow, this is very exciting. And will they be, how will they be advertising? Will Scenic Hudson actually be hosting or advertising the community outreach?
I'm not sure if we're going to be hosting it. I know that the county and HVEA, they have a community engagement consultant who's heading up a lot of the work, but we're working very closely with her concerning community engagement to ensure that, people from the city of Poughkeepsie have the opportunity to provide input.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I go ahead and turn it over, Kathleen? Or
okay, sounds great. Thank you, Emily and Zoraida?
Yep.
Very exciting. We'll be looking forward to watching it unfold. Okay, so we're gonna now hear from Warren from the from Winnakee Land Trust. Sorry, Warren, would you be willing to give us a
I don't
quick
need the
update?
screen. I don't have any visuals, so that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just gonna speak.
Okay, about the Sawkill Trail.
Hi, I'm Warren Rosenthal, Land Protection Manager for Winnakee Land Trust and jack of all trades. So one of our, we have a number of actually exciting trail projects, and I'll mention some of the other ones briefly, but one of the things that we will be working on, hopefully starting this year, will be a connection, an off-road connection that will enable people to get from the village of Red Hook to the campus of Bard College. And this past year, we acquired 335 acres that basically surrounds the Sawkill. And that will be the connection that will, essentially that property will allow us to make that connection. The trick's gonna be, just like it is with most rail trail projects, is how to get across a major state road, in this case 9G. So that will be the, that will obviously take the longest to accomplish and will cost some significant dollars. But we're going to be partnering with the town and with the college, hopefully in the state to make that happen. But meanwhile, the plan is to construct the trail system in phases. The first phase would be from the new town park west to an overlook on the Sawkill. So we hope to have that done this year. We're not sure exactly what the surface is going to be. Initially, we were talking about making it stone dust. It's probably not going to be that. But the first section probably will be multimodal. Beyond that, we're not exactly sure the width or the surface at this time. I'll also just quickly mention two other trail projects. One of them essentially is complete. It's on a new property that we just acquired last year called Dutchess Gables in Stanford. Has 4 miles of loop trails. I encourage people to check that out. Nice, wide, easy trails with some nice views. Good for a variety of activities. At this point, though, we are not allowing bikes on there because the trail surface needs to harden up. And then our newest property that we just acquired very recently will have about maybe 1.5 miles of consisting of 2 loop trails along the second largest marsh swamp in town of Rhinebeck called Bly Marsh on Bly Road. And those trails should be marked and available within the next couple of weeks. And for both of those, we'll be working on getting maps up and online for people to have available.
Great. Very nice. And exciting too. Can't wait to get over there and hike them. Okay, so our final formal presentation is going to be from Beth from on the New York State Greenway Trail Plan. The update on that. Oh, let me make you the host.
Oh, I don't have any.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any materials.
Visuals?
It's
Okay.
really not gonna take that long, but so I'm putting in the link to the plan and the associated materials for it. It's on the New York State Parks website. So it's a New York State Parks a project, but basically in November of 2021, there was a bill signed into law to produce a statewide non-motorized multi-use trail plan. And a year-long effort was undertaken by OPRHP and partners, including the Greenway, including Parks and Trails New York. And the draft plan and inventory was released in November, on November 18th of 2020. And there was an open public comment period through January 19th of 2021. And that included a public hearing that was held on January 6th. And Parks let me know that they received 55 public comments. And their team is currently going through these comments to address the substantive ones in the document. And they're expecting that the final plan with those revisions included would be available near the end of April. Features of the plan include existing trail systems and trail uses, benefits of trails, Greenway trail trends, and goals and recommendations for New York's Greenway trail system. And that's where it stands right now.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, we're gonna thank you, Beth. We're gonna go to the chat window there. But Karl, do you see? Let's see.
There's a question for Warren about is there a technical impediment to the Sawkill Trail being developed as a something close to a full ADA standard of trail use?
Okay, so I mean, it's still something that's being considered. It's going to depend, obviously, on available dollars. At this point, the thinking is that the first phase will definitely be ADA compliant ultimately, though maybe not initially. The other sections, there'll probably be other sections that will be, but there may be some sections that will not. So again, it's going to depend on what resources that we have available to us. We do have a state grant, but that of course requires a considerable match. And we may have that match, but at this point we don't have anything secured yet. So again, depending on what monies are available, will kind of determine the degree of access and the type of surface for the particular section of trail.
Yeah, and I guess my follow-on question would be, what's the design use? Is it cycling? Is it pedestrian? Because that really, dictates the width, all the characteristics of the trail. I guess that's yet to be determined.
Yeah, I mean, I think the original intent was that it would be definitely be multimodal, but at this point, again, our own trails committee needs to actually get out and take a closer look, and then we need to evaluate it and determine exactly what makes the most sense given the resources that we have available to us. So I guess I could see it going in phases, and that parts of it would over time, improvements will be made, and it probably ultimately would become maybe entirely multimodal, but that might take a number of years to get to that point.
Okay, thank you. I do have Matthew Kirkstead from the Marlborough Nature Trail. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, Matthew, why don't you go ahead? Matthew's called in on his phone, so I wanted to make sure we acknowledge him and he can give us his brief update on his new trail over there in Marlborough.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Can everybody
great.
hear Matthew? Okay.
All right. On behalf of the Marlborough Trail Committee, I just want to announce the recent opening of the Marlborough Nature Trail. So Marlborough is in extreme southeastern Ulster County, and our trail is in the southeastern corner of the town, right on Route 9W in the Marlborough hamlet. This is a 32-acre parcel that we leased for 25 years from Tilcon, New York, the rock quarrying company. And this has doubled our town open space, and it's our first woodland trail. Our other parks are open with playing fields and that kind of thing. So there's about 2 miles at the most of trail in a figure 8 pattern, about 170 feet of elevation change from the parking area down to the Hudson. It's not quite on the Hudson. It allows you access to Latin Town Creek and Jews Creeks which flow out to the river, but you can see it from the wetlands. There's a number of historical features, farm ruins, foundations, 4 historic cemeteries, and an Episcopal church that was designed by Richard Upjohn, and that's listed on the National Register. A lot of volunteer work went into this. It's amazing what we were able to accomplish in free time generated by COVID. So a lot of donated labor. We had donated construction in the form of a kiosk, a footbridge, signage, a parking area, and the donated dumpster allowed us to dispose of 7 tons of junk. So we welcome you to check it out. It's a walking, skiing, and hiking trail. And that's it.
Great. And here there's a lot of wildlife too being spotted along that trail.
Yeah, it's not a big trail, but if you use your imagination and pace it out and take all the spurs, it takes you to some different places on both creeks. And the beaver are starting to build a new dam across Jews Creek. There's herons. And the last time I was there, I saw a bald eagle with a bright orange giant carp in its talons, which was kind of freaky. But yeah, it's a real addition to our recreation and open space here in Marlborough.
That's fantastic. So exciting. I can't wait to get over there and check it out in the spring.
Let us know. We'll give you a tour.
Okay. And while Kevin's on the phone, just want a quick advertisement for Matthew. Not only is he a trail advocate, but he also has his own graphic design business, and has done some interpretive signage for some of our new trails, including some parts of the Maybrook, correct, Matthew? So
yeah, I'm a historian, but I work with some graphic artists. My business is historical interpretation. I did a couple sections of the Empire Trail, and I'm also doing some new work for Harlem Valley Trail.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Karl,
Thank you.
Do we have any other important questions, or anybody have any announcements at this point?
Just one note, David has put up a link to the trail opening thing that event that Matthew just talked about.
Oh, great.
And there's a question for Emily about potential links from the Harlem or Dick, links from the Harlem Valley Rail Trail to the Empire State Trail at either end.
Yeah, I'll take that. On the northern end, once we get to Chatham, it would be about a 6-mile over road link to the Empire State Trail on Route 203. Going south, you'd have to build a trail along the Metro North Railroad down and link up with the trail coming across Southern Dutchess. So that's a stretch perhaps.
Something for the next generation to work on.
Yeah.
Karl, it's Andy Pierce. I'll just add that Columbia County and the Columbia Land Conservancy have been undertaking a planning exercise, what's called the Boston and Albany Rail Corridor, right, which would be another possible connection from this. It would be from the city of Hudson to the Harlem Valley Rail Trail. I believe at Ghent would be the connection.
In Ghent, right?
Yeah, it's a long-term effort, and because when that rail corridor was abandoned, portions of it were conveyed to the adjoining owners. So there are some sections that are more easily developed than others, and then right in the connection of the city of Hudson, there's still the last mile or so, half mile of it is still an active rail line, which is of course an issue as well. But so if people want to learn more about that, if you Google Boston and Albany Railroad, you will find some links to the conceptual plan that was released by the county and Scenic Hudson, I believe last year, maybe even the year before at this point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Before everybody leaves, I do want to make another announcement. As far as our next roundtable is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, May 25th. I guess we'll try to target 1 o'clock again. That seems to be a good time for most everyone. And if anybody, I will be sending out a follow-up email with some links to some of these important documents and maps that we've shared today for everybody's information and resources. And also, if you have any ideas for any of our programs for any of our upcoming roundtables, please let us know. Does anyone else have any comments or? Okay.
There's a quick question from Matt Kiersted from Kevin. Is the visible quarry property just off the Hudson? If Matt's still on.
Yeah. What's the question?
Is the visible quarry property just off the Hudson?
This 32-acre parcel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Yeah. This 32-acre parcel that our trail is on is a what I would call buffer lands that Tilcon acquired long ago just to provide buffer land around their quarry. The Cedar Cliff Quarry proper, which is a big open pit dolomite quarry, that's been closed for several decades. That is on a larger 200-acre parcel that's across Jews Creek from our parcel. Where we would be interested in perhaps getting access to the northern end of that so that we can actually get to the river, or at least get a river view. The CSX freight railroad line really shuts all of this off from the edge of the river. But we're adjacent to that large Cedar Cliff Quarry property that's right on the river's edge.
So if you're on the deck of the Falcon, the place, the music place down there, and you look across the creek, this is the property you're looking at. That wild.
Yeah, the big hill that you look at would be the backside of the quarry that I'm talking about, and then between that and the Falcon is the trail land. Yes, south side of Latintown Creek.
Okay. Now, do you have will you be giving any type of, walks there in the spring, perhaps, for the public?
Socially distanced, of course.
Yes, we certainly welcome that. The trail's getting a lot of use. We're happy. There's always cars parked there. If people are interested in a walk and talk to look at the quarry, we could certainly do that. And speaking to that, I think Rob Wills asked earlier about organized trail walks on other trails, and I am thinking of doing history bicycle tours on the Maybrook line section of the Empire Trail when we can.
Awesome. Exciting. All right. And would that be posted on your website, or is that part of a separate trail bike group?
I don't know. I might do it through Meetup. That seems to be the best way to do these things these days, but I'll let you know.
Okay, great. All right, then. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, we'll be looking forward to our next roundtable and hearing from everybody again soon.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks all of you for participating in our great experiment here.
Yes.
It's sort
Very
of worked.
successful.
It sort of worked.
This is totally grassroots. Okay. Take care. Have a good day.
You want to stay on, or the trails people you want to stay on just to review? I'm going to stop the recording, and you wanted to just follow up on anything, or we could just talk at another time.
I can hang around.
Sure, I'll hang around for a wrap up.
Yeah.